Today we're going to talk about this Zooz scene controller. You can use this to control all kinds of automations in your home assistant setup from one spot. Let's get started. Alright, so let's talk about what's in the box. This is a Zooz controller, scene controller. And you get step-by-step guide for pairing with Vera, SmartThings, Wink, and other stuff, which is interesting. Probably won't use that. It works with bulbs. It works with everything, right? But it's a scene controller. So we're going to do whatever we want to do with it within Home Assistant. Do not use with switch receptacles or fans over 3 amps if you're installing this in your house. But I'll leave the electrical stuff up to y'all. I am not an electrician, so I don't want to burn your house down. So follow all appropriate precautions. Of course, they always have a Ask a Get Zooz helpline. So if the Zwave hub supports Smart Start, you can scan the QR code and enter the 5-digit DSK code when adding this device to your Zwave network. Also, when you open the box, you'll also notice that there is quick setup. So you can choose your hub. So we have SmartThings, Habitat, and Vera, and actually we have Home Assistant, which is what I use. It has step-by-step pairing instructions for your switch. In addition, of course, you get the manual, the scene controller manual, and a big bit of documentation for that. And then in the box, you always get the little extra cable, so you can wire it into the house, outlet power, and then the actual device. And this device will fit in a standard wall socket. It's got the main switch, the 4 scene controllers that go along with it. Of course, all of the terminals you need to hook this up to your electrical outlet. That's it for the box. It's just a standard wall plug, or standard, fits in a standard wall plate. ZEN32 scene controller. I'm going to install this in a little box. So let's get that done now. It's a little demo box that I'm going to use for this. Rather than putting it in the wall, I can do this here in the room where I'm at, and not have to worry about trying to demonstrate this while it's in the wall. Okay, for demonstration purposes, what I have here is a standard 1-gang electrical box that this will fit into, just like so. And then I also have a power cord that I'm going to just cut the end off of and wire this directly into this plug going through this box. So we'll get all that put together so we can use and make a little demo device right here. And there you have what I like to call switch in a box. So you have a box ready to go. You can then use your switches here and all of your scene controllers. And so what we'll do next is we will go into Home Assistant and we will set this up to do some stuff with those scene controller buttons. Now I must stress that if you're not an electrician or you don't know what you're doing with electricity, make sure you get help. If you're not comfortable around electricity, then don't wire this up yourself. Get a professional to do it for you, and once it's wired up, then you can have the fun. But by all means, be careful. You're playing with live power, and we don't want anyone injured, so do what you need to be safe. All right, let's get into doing some stuff with this thing. So the first thing I want to do is I want to include it into my Z-Wave network. And to do that, I'm going to go to my whatever add-on you happen to use. I'm using the Z-Wave JS add-on here, and I've got the control panel for that. So I'm going to click on Add Remove Device. Before I do that, let's get it up. There we go. So I'm going to click on Add Remove Device, and then on this section right here, it says to push this button 3 times fast. So let me click on Add Remove Device. I'm going to click this 3 times fast. 1, 2, 3. And come back over here, and let's see what it does on the Add Remove Device setting here. It says inclusion. Oh, I've got to start it. So let me start it first. And then I'm going to hit that 3 times. So let me come back over here. 1, 2, 3. 3 times fast. And let's see if it finds it. And it says inclusion stop, checking nodes, device found. Node 48 has been found. And we can see over here that the light is actually flashing on this device, on the new switch. So let's go back over now, and let's go into node 48 and take a look. So node 48 says it's unknown, so it's still scanning it. And supposedly by looking here, that's probably what it's doing. Now I didn't follow the smart start or whatever those instructions are with the setup, because I wanted it to I wanted to see if I could just do it manually. And so now you can see, well, first of all, you can see that the light is stopped. You're seeing a little flicker because that's camera flicker. These are little LED lights, so there's a little flicker built into LED. But you can see now that the scene controller is now showing up. Okay, so now it knows it as the Zooz scene controller ZEN32, which is what this is. And I'm going to go down here and take a look at some of the configuration options. So central scene. It has scene, it's hard to see this, but that's scene 5. Let me see if I can go to light mode and see if we can see it better. There you go. Scene 5, scene 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the held down scene. So if you look at the manual, let me get the manual. And you can kind of see on the manual here, you can, not the manual, the little book that comes with it, you've got some scene controls here. You've got switch button, reports, association group 1, lifeline to hub, group 2, basic set, group 3, multi-level, reports scene 5 with 7 attributes. So button 1, which is one of these buttons, so probably that one. Button 1, tap 1 for on off the connected scene. Tap 2, 3, or 4, or 5 for scene multi-tap. Hold for scene 5, release for scene 5. Tap 1. Okay, so here's the numbers. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the 4 buttons here. So tap 1 for on off of the connected load, which means if you have a light connected to this, you're going to push that button to turn the load on and off. Scene 5. Now I'm getting this all backwards. So let me try again. This main button is your load button. This will turn the light on and off for whatever device you have connected to it. And you can press 1 time for on off of the connected load. Scene 5, pressed, or basic set for association group 2. Tap 2, 3, 4, or 5 for, or 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or 5 times for multi-scene or scene 5 multi-tap. So if you come over here to scene 5, it's not defined here, but this scene 5, you can do multi-taps on that scene. All right. And then hold for scene 5 held and release for scene 5 released. So you've got all these options here for the main button. you've got these buttons down here, and you can see that in the picture here. I missed that at the beginning. But you can see tap scenes 1 through 4 for basic scenes 1 through 4. So again, on the actual device in Z-Wave, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is the big button and stuff that happens with the big button. And this is scenes 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are all things that are controlled by these 4 buttons right here. So 2, 3, or 4 for scene 1, you can do 2 times, 3 times. You can do multi-tap for each of those buttons. And then you can hold for 1 through 4 for multi-level group 5, 7, 9, 11 release for scene 1 through 4 released, or multi-level stop level change. So you've got just gazillions of options here. And it talks a little bit about here, group 4 basic set, group 5 multi-level, scene 1, 7 actions. So there are approximately there's 7 attributes on the main button, and there are 7 actions on each of these right here. So basically you can do quite a bit of stuff with this device. So right out of the box, one of the things to see is, does it understand scene control? Okay, so you have these 4 scenes here, and they're already predefined within Z-Wave, so I don't have to do anything to enable these scenes. They should be available. So let's just see if it works. So let me go back over to the device, and let's look at scene number 1, which should be this top left button. Let me press it once, and now it says key pressed. If I hold it down, let me press it again, the light comes back on. If I hold it down, now it should say key held down, and now key release. So on or scene enabled, and then turn it back off again, and then you can hold it down, and it recognizes key held down, and then you release it, it recognizes key released. And you can do the same thing with all the rest of these. So scene 2, key released, I held that down, but key 2, key pressed, again key pressed, again key pressed, and key pressed, and for 4. So it's picking up all of the key presses here, and then you can hold any of these down and get a key held down. It does work out of the box once you, at least with Z-Wave JS, the current version that we're on now, it does work out of the box for that. There's other things on here such as configuration, where you can set the LED indicators for all of the buttons. So right now, LED indicator for the main button is on when the relay is off. So it's on when the switch is off, basically. I can turn it always on or always off, or flip it to where it's on when so if you turn, let's say you have a light connected to this, on when the relay is on, that means the light will be on when on the switch when the light itself is on, the load is on. Same thing here. You can set all these different ways. Now what's interesting is when I go down here to these scene controllers and I turn one on or off, if you look at the video here, if I push this one time, it says key press. So that would be activating a scene. But now you can see that the light is actually off on this one button. So I could set this to always be, it's the same settings, on when relay is off, on when relay is on, or always off, always on. So I could set it to always off. And now when I come back over and push this button, it'll show, well, let me go back down here. It'll show key pressed for scene 1, but it'll never turn the light on. I'm gonna have to wait and see what I do with the lighting, but you definitely have control over what the lights are doing. And then you have these colors. So on LED indicator for button 1, I can set it to, let's just say green. Let me turn it back on. So it's always, or just say on when relay's off or whatever. I gotta push the button here. So I send the commands, and then I send this command to make it green. And it's kind of hard to see in the picture, but that actually just does turn green. And so button 2, I can make it red and send it. And now I have a green button and I have a red button. So now I can do all these things with those buttons. And again, when you flip it, it's on or off, on or off. And I think I covered up the video, so I apologize. I set this button 1 to green and set this button 2 to red. And I mean, you could set this other one to whatever you want, default blue, green, or red. And I could do, let's see, green, red. Let me set this one to blue, and then I'll just send it over. And again, that's probably the hardest one on the camera to see, but I have a green, a red, and a blue light, and then a white light. So you could color code those as well. Okay, so we have this thing talking back and forth on Z-Wave. We've done a little bit of configuration. Just looking through some other settings. You could set the brightness, it's at 60%, and that's important sometimes. If you have this in a dark room or dark hallway, you don't want to blast out the volume of the lighting. And then you have a timer relay. So you could actually, and this is kind of cool, I'm not sure what we would do with this exactly. Auto off timer relay, set that back to 0. I suppose you could do something along the lines of turning on the relay, and the relay is what's in the box that actually does the load. So auto off timer. So you could actually, if you push the main button here, this is the relay. You almost can hear it. If you push that button right there, then it would actually start a timer and it would turn it off after X minutes. If you turn it off, it would turn it back on after X minutes. And then I always put this to reset the status after power failure. I want it to be in the prior state. So if my lights were on when the power went out, I want the lights to come back on, and vice versa. You can enable or disable local control. So if I disable the local control and sent that over to my device, now this button, yep, it doesn't do anything anymore. So you can force that button not to do anything. Now that's the relay control. That's the load control, which means that you can make it not do anything with the load. And in my case, I don't have a load hooked up to this. I don't have any lights. It's just a test jig sitting on my table here. But if I had a light on there and I didn't want somebody to control that light with that button, I could turn that feature off. And then this button is only either controlled via scene control, which could do a bunch of things along with that light, or just doesn't do anything at all. But you can still use the scene functions even though you've turned the relay off. So that gives you the ability to disable local control. So custom configuration, you can set parameters here. I'm not going to get into that right now. So what we've got is we've now got a device that has a main load button as well as a scene control on that main button. And then we have 4 different buttons for additional scene control, and supposedly each one of them has 7 different possibilities. Okay, so now we have this button, and by the way, this is the binary switch part. If I push the button, since I've got it disabled, it doesn't do anything. But I can manually do it. So I don't know if you hear the clicking or not, but you can see the light change. See the light go on and off here? I can still, from Z-Wave, turn on and off that main load. So if there's a light attached to it, I can still turn it on and off using Z-Wave controls. So you put this on a dashboard, you can do that. You can still do that, but not have an ability to turn it on and off here. See, I can't do anything. I can control a scene this way, right? If I push this fast, key press 3 times. This one, same way. 4 times, 3 times. What if I do 2 times, 4 times? So you can, that's all those different options, 7 options. So on, off, key press held, key press released, and then how many times you push a button. Key press 4 times. So you can control all kinds of stuff. With this box right here on my desk, I can control quite a few of my devices in my Z-Wave network if I can remember what they all are, or what all these options do. I'd have to have a cheat sheet for that many options. Okay, now let's do the next step here. The box is up and running. Everything looks good. Let's go over to the Z-Wave, or to the Z-Wave event bus, and let's see what's going on with the events. So I'm going to go into Home Assistant. I'm going to look at events, and I'm going to subscribe to an event bus listener, or event bus event, whichever one that is. In this case, I want to look at Z-Wave JS, and I believe it's going to be value notification. We'll see if that's the right one. It's either value notification or just notification. So Zwave JS value notification, start listening. And I'm going to push this scene button. So I'll push one of these scene buttons and we'll just see what happens. Okay, it worked. So what has occurred is I'm listening to the Zwave JS value notification bus, event bus, and it sends data when I push a button. And the things that I'm most interested in for automation purposes are the label, in this case, scene01. And let me get this out of the way for you. The label, scene01, and then the value key pressed. So if I go back over here and I push, this is scene01. That's because I pushed button 1. If I push button 2 now, hopefully, there it is. On button 2, it's scene01. Oh, it's backwards order. This is the first one I pressed. All right, and this is the next one, 1253. Okay, so I did a scene 2, property name scene, all this stuff, right? And then the value key pressed. Now, what happens if I press, what happens if I press on or hold this down? So we're going to watch these events go in reverse order. So the next event will pop up here at the top. I'm going to hold down this first button this time and see what we get. And then I'm going to release it. And this is what happened. You can kind of see it right here. You get scene01. And this time the value, well, first of all, it was key held down. And because I released it right afterwards, it's now key released. So now I'm getting scene 1 and then the value of that data block that comes with the scene. Now, one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press it 2 or 3 times. So let's press, I'll just pick another number this time. Let's do scene 3, which is this button right here. I'll push it 3 times in rapid succession. Okay, now what you see is all the same stuff, except this time it's scene 3. And the value is key pressed 3 times. So now we know basically what we're going to try to get here. So if I want to take a snapshot of this, which I will do here, I'm going to take a snapshot of this event block just to have it all in one place. I'm going to save it in my image editor so I can see it. So I have this here, and I'll open this up and refer to it as I need it. I'm going to build an automation that does something with this scene controller. And for that, I'm going to go back to configuration and then automations, and I'm going to create a brand new automation. So I'm going to click on add automation here to create a new automation. And I'm just going to start with an empty automation this time. And I'm going to turn on upstairs light with this scene controller. And let's say, and for this example, that I have a light upstairs I need to turn on before I go up the stairs. This is a perfect example of being able to have this scene controller, this outlet box downstairs, or switch box downstairs, being able to push the scene control button, turn the light on upstairs so I don't have to go upstairs in the dark. So that makes it awesome. You can control stuff all around. I envision turning on outside lights, inside lights, turning them off as a group, whatever, that kind of thing with this. So what I'm going to do is an event, and I'm going to be listening to the Zwave JS value notification event bus. And my event label is going to consist of 3 things. I want the node ID because I want to make sure that I'm listening to that particular box. This is node ID 48. We knew that when we added it into our Z-Wave network. We saw it as node 48. I want to make sure when I push this button that this is coming from this box. If you have more than one of these around the house, it's quite possible for you to be able to have different nodes specified for the same scenes. You're going to have a scene 001 on a lot of devices. You don't want anything else to trigger but this device. So we specify the node. So we'll go ahead and put in the node, node ID, node ID is going to be 48 in this case. And then looking at my values here, I want the label, which is scene 00 whatever 1 2 3, and then the value would be key pressed. So I'm just going to I'm going to use scene 1 this time. So I'm going to say label is scene 003, and probably have to put this one in quotes since there's a space in it. And then finally, I want the value, which is the actual action you did. If you push the thing 3 times and that's what you want to use, that's what you use for value. If you pushed it 1 time, that's what you'd use. If you held it down, that's what you would use. So I'd say value is key pressed. Okay, so node ID, label, and value. And you could limit to specific users. I don't even mess with that. And then no conditions. And for actions, what I want to do is I want to call a service. And specifically, I want to do a switch turn on because that's the light I'm talking about upstairs. And then I want to pick an entity. And that entity is going to be this light switch upstairs. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that poor light gets more attention from me than anything else. Okay, so let's run through this again. We're going to give it a name. We're going to listen to an event on the event bus. The event type is this event right here. And then the data we're looking for will match. If it matches these specific items that are in that event block or the data block that comes across, then it will go ahead and come down here and complete the actions, which in this case, calling a switch turn on service to turn on this specific light. And once you have all that, then you can save it. Now, if I go over here to test, first thing I want to do is enable this, which, where's it at? Turn on, it's already turned on by default, okay? Turn on upstairs light. You can run the actions to test it. And so if I open up another terminal or another dashboard here, that light is currently off. So if I run this action, it should turn the light on. I heard it click. So there it is. So the light's on. So let me turn it back off. Now what we can do is we can watch this dashboard, and at the same time, we can watch what is going on with let me move this out of the way. Oops. We can watch what's happening with this light right here. So I'm going to use this thing I did key pressed. And this light is not, this box, of course, is not physically attached to anything related to that light. The only thing it's doing is sending a scene, I don't know what you call it, action block, a data block, over to Home Assistant to process. So I'm going to push this button. And it should activate the scene. And let me try it one more time. And now it did not. So I'm going to leave this troubleshooting step in just in case we have this kind of issue. Let me go back over to the data or the developer tools. Thank you. And I'm going to look and see what we're still on this block. So let me push the button to make sure it's still working. Yes. So what I did was key pressed. And let me take a picture of this. Instead of using the other example that I had, let me take a picture of this one. I'm looking for node ID 48, label is scene 001, and I'm looking for value key pressed. So let's go back over to our automation and see if that actually is what we have going on there. So navigate to automations. I'm going to edit the turn on upstairs light. I'm going to come down here and make sure these values are all correct. So we have node ID 48. Label is scene, oh, and see what I did? I did 003. So that's probably why it didn't work. And let me just make sure that it's key pressed as a value. It should be exact. So value key pressed, value key pressed. Okay. So let me save it and do it again, because I think because I was pushing button 1 instead of pushing button 3, that's why it didn't actually run. And you can also do a show trace here. If you're concerned that something didn't work, you can trace all of this stuff related to this particular automation. And that's a new feature in, I think, 2021.4 of Home Assistant, where they gave you the ability to do these traces. So you can actually see what's going on in the automations if for some reason the automation isn't working correctly. Now, what it's not going to help you do is figure out that you typed it wrong. It did exactly what it was supposed to. See, this says scene 003. That should have been scene 001. So let me go back to the dash. Now this time what we will do is we will watch this light and make sure it turns on when I push that scene button. So I'm going to do a key press. And there it is. So now it's turned that light on. So the interesting thing is now I can push this again and it's not toggling the light. It's just leaving it on, because the automation says turn on the light. Let's go back to the automation and see if we can fix that a little bit. Let's say we want to be able to turn this on and off. I will go back into this automation, and instead of doing switch turn on, I'm going to do switch toggle. And it's going to be, I got to pick an entity again, Playroom. And I'm going to save it. And now, when I run this or push this button again, the automation should actually flip that. Let me make sure you all were able to see that. Yeah, you could. I forget sometimes I have the second camera going, and so it blocks some of my vision here. Okay, so if I push this button again, it's kind of backwards. So let me turn this switch off. And I don't know how you synchronize the lighting with this, but if I push this button now, it turns on the light. And you can also see here that the light is actually on the switch. Since I have it toggled and I started in an off state with the light off, it's in sync. If I push this again, it should toggle the light back off, and it does. So now I have the ability to toggle that light on and off from a device that's across the room or across the house or whatever via scene control. Now it's off now, and if I turn the light switch on here, it'll just be backwards, right? So now it says the light's off, but this light's on. It can very quickly get out of sync. So what else can we do with these scenes? Oh, the sky is the limit on the scenes. One of the things I like to do, and let's just do scene number 2. All the stuff is exactly the same, but I'm going to go to scene number 2. So I'm going to do another automation. And I'm going to, this time, again, you can see that button there, add automation. I'm going to start with a blank. This is going to be turn on all inside lights. Let's do outside lights. I have an inside lights already. All inside lights. Outside lights. And for this same trigger is going to be an event. We're going to do Zwave, JS, value notification. And the event data this time, instead of being scene 1, we'll do, again, we want the node ID. So that's always going to be the same in this case if we're using this box. Node ID is 48. And then we're going to do, what did I say? Label. Label is going to be scene 0. Oops. Scene? How do you spell scene? Scene 002 this time, which is the button on the top right. And then for the value, again, key pressed. I don't need the quotes actually, I don't think. I'm just going to leave it without them. Key pressed. And for this one, what I want to do is, and you can set some conditions. Let's say you don't want to turn on, what is this? Turn on outside lights? You don't want to turn on all the outside lights if the time is between X time and Y time. So you could set some conditions here for time of day or whatever. If it's before or whatever, you can pick days of the week. That way you don't turn all the lights on by accident as you're walking out the door and it's the middle of the day or something. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it simple for now. And then for device, we're going to do, again, we're going to do a call service. Instead of toggle this time, we're just going to turn them all on. So I'm going to do switch turn on again. And in this case, I'm going to pick, you can pick an area or a device or an entity. I'm going to pick a number of entities. So I'm going to do back porch lights. Okay, so we have 4 different lights we're going to turn on by pushing one scene controller from a central location within our house. And for that one, what I will do is, that's it for everything. I'll just save it. And I'm not going to test this time. I'm going to be brave. So right now what we have is we have this switch here is the switch for scene 2. And when I push that button, all of the outside lights should come on. So let's see what happens. Let me push scene 2 and watch. What you're watching is this section over here. And that's in the way, of course. You're watching this section over here to see what lights come on. So let me push that button right now. Boom. And there we go. 4 lights are on. Now, if I want to, this will be one I'll show you a key press on. So I'm going to make one more automation just because I'm having a lot of fun here. This automation is going to turn those lights off. So in that case, I am going to create one more automation. So let me go back here. It'll be a blank automation. And this will be turn off outside lights. And same thing, I'm just going to do a lot of this stuff the same. So, whoops, event. So this will be, again, Zwave.js value notification. And label node ID 48. Label is going to be scene 2. Again, we're doing scene 2, but because we're going to do a double key press on this one. 002. And this is where it makes the difference. So value, instead of being key pressed, will be key pressed X2, I believe it is. I may have to go back and look at that one. And I don't need the quotes, I don't know what I'm doing there. Key press, either it's 2X or X2. I will have to go find out in a second here. So let me save it first, and I'll go correct it if I need to. But first, the actions are going to be call service, switch turn off this time. And we're going to do the same lights. All right, so we have 4 items. So I'm going to save that one. I'm going to go back over here to my developer tools and make sure that I'm actually looking at the right key press stuff here. So key press is single key press 3x. So I did key press 2x, I believe that's right. Let me just double check my automations. So C on the keyboard, whoops. And then automations, navigate to automations. And then this will be turn off outside lights, edit that one. And it should say key pressed 2 times, 2x, so 2x. And save it. Okay. Now what we'll see, and I just did all that with this screen up, so I hope you all were able to see what I was doing since I put this stinking second camera in the way. Apologies if you didn't. Hopefully it worked. All right, so now, here it is. Now I'll put the camera back. So we can now see on our dashboard that we have these 4 lights on because I pressed this button 1 time. Now if I press this button 2 times, scene 2, key press 2x, it should turn off all those lights. Let's give it a shot. So there we go. Boom. All those lights are off. You can see now that these lights are now off. I'm going to push it 1 time, turn the lights back on. Boom. Okay, that 1 press, key press, turns the lights on in that automation. 2 key presses, turns them all off. So there you have it. A 40-something minute video to tell you how to turn a light on and off. Isn't that amazing? So you can get all kinds of wild and crazy with the automations. You can put this one box, again, this one box, you can put this one box anywhere in your house that's centrally located, and you can control all kinds of things within your Home Assistant setup. So just, it's all up to your imagination on how you do that. If you have questions, leave those down in the comments below. Again, this is the Zooz, in the unboxing, it's the Zooz scene controller. Awesome little box. I'm pleased with it so far. I mean, I may keep it on my desk up here plugged in like I have it now as a controller for me to control stuff around the house while I'm just sitting at the desk. That would be pretty awesome. like my little office deal here. Because you can technically run it off an extension cord if you wanted to. Kind of weird, but you can. Anyway, that was a long video, but I hope it's helpful. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you need help via comments below or also Discord, you can find me there. If you feel like you want to support the channel, throw me a couple bucks over there on Patreon or Ko-fi, and we'll see you on the next video.